Welcome to the Travel Tidbits podcast, hosted by me, Jamie Weidel, travel advisor and owner of Pineapple Escapes Travel. Join me as I share the latest travel news, top destinations, and expert tips for the savvy traveler. Because after all, travel makes life sweeter. Welcome back to the Travel Tidbits podcast, where we share travel tips, destination insights, and the latest in travel news. I'm your host, Jamie Weidel, and today we're diving into what it's like to visit Walt Disney World with little ones. If you're planning a trip with babies, toddlers, or young kids, this episode is going to be packed with helpful advice. Joining me for today's episode is Pineapple Escapes travel agent Casey Jent, who recently traveled to Walt Disney World with her two little ones, Jasper and Nora. Casey, thanks for being here.
Thank you so much, Jamie. I'm super excited to share my family's experience today.
Awesome. So it's been a long time since I had little ones. Mine are all teenagers now. So before we jump in too much, tell us a little bit about your trip, what it was like traveling to Walt Disney World with two little ones, and just kind of an overview of some of your favorite moments and how that went.
So obviously I was nervous at first. Traveling with two little ones would make anyone nervous. So at the time that we traveled, my daughter was 4 months old and my son was 16 months old.
Little.
Yes, they're very little. Obviously, they had never been to Disney World and neither had my husband when we traveled. So it was a first experience for all of them. We did do all 4 parks. We went to Disney Springs. We did travel in October. So we were also able to do the Mickey's Not So Scary Halloween party, that special event. Overall, we just had a wonderful trip. My favorite memory, looking back now, was getting my son's first haircut at Harmony Barbershop. So all those pictures are so precious.
I love that. And I think that's one of the best things about Disney is it really does cater to all ages, from 0 to 102. There is something there for everyone. And I think it's so interesting, especially for my family. We first went when my daughters were 2 and my son was 4. So they were a little older than yours. I wasn't quite that brave when mine were all that little, but just seeing them grow up with Disney too has been such an amazing experience. So I hope that you'll get to do that as well. But let's talk a little bit more about your trip. Let's first talk about where you stayed, how the sleeping arrangements work. Where were you? How did that work? Did everyone sleep well? Those sorts of things. That was always my main concern.
So we stayed at Pop Century because I did want to have extra access to another form of transportation beside the bus. So we stayed, of course, with the Skyliner.
Yes.
Disney did provide a pack and play. So my son slept in the pack and play. And then we had 2 beds in our room. So at the time, my daughter was still sleeping in her Snuggle Me. So that was able to go on the second bed right next to us because, she wasn't rolling over or doing anything at that time.
Yeah.
So my son slept completely just fine. He was so tired and wore out. We had his little stuffed animals and his little blanket in there, and he just went to sleep like he was at home in his own bed.
Awesome. I think that makes such a big difference. Like, I know that was a big thing for me, especially with twins. I was terrified they wouldn't sleep. So that's why we waited till they were 2 to go. But I'm so impressed that you went and had success with sleeping and all of that. I think that's amazing. So that's so good to hear. And I do think you're right. Like, they're going to be worn out at the end of the day. So that definitely helps. So I think another big thing with traveling with little ones, especially babies, is packing. So let's talk a little bit about how you prepared for the trip. And did you fly? Did you drive? What extras did you need to bring? How did all of that work?
So we did fly. We did have a direct flight. We didn't have a layover or anything. So we did have a direct flight. As far as packing, I did start definitely in advance because I didn't want to overwhelm myself. couple days before. So I just definitely wanted to make sure that we had everything, had enough formula, diapers, all of the things, even though, of course, we did end up doing a grocery delivery to our resort once we got there for some additional snacks and stuff like that. But I did want to try to bring everything that we needed. Now, of course, we did obviously have to travel with it. So that was a little bit more luggage. So that's something to definitely prepare for with the airline and checking bags and all of that.
So you said that Disney provided you a pack and play for your room. What about like stroller, bottle warmer? I don't know what else. It's been a while. What else did you need that like took up extra space?
So we did have a stroller. Our stroller was not a side-by-side. It was one of the ones where it was one seat in front of the other. And I purposely did that. So when we were in the parks, the back seat for my daughter actually laid down into a bassinet.
Oh.
So that way she could sleep while we were in the parks. And then my son had his seat up front. Now, with a stroller like that, that's one seat in front of the other, you don't have to break those down when you're getting in the Skyliner because they fit. The ones side by side, you do have to break down. Now, obviously, when you're getting on the buses or something like that, you'll always have to break them down. So definitely want a lightweight stroller if possible, because you are going to, having to be breaking it down a lot.
So with a stroller and like breaking it down to get on the buses, that sort of thing, what else were you packing to take into the park? I know a lot of people fill up the bottom of their stroller with different things. Did you have all of that in a bag? What did you take in with you? That sort of thing.
So I had two things. So we had a bag, like a little backpack or diaper bag. Mm-hmm. And then I also had a stroller caddy. I found one that actually has like Mickey's on it. So it matched the theme perfectly. So it like hooked on to the stroller handlebar.
Oh, okay.
And it was kind of just like a little bag basically hanging there. So that's where I put the sippy cups, the bottles, the extra water, all of those things that I might need to grab quickly, wipes if there was a spill. And then in the bag that was underneath our stroller is where I had the extra diapers, the extra clothes in case somebody needed to change clothes, and that stuff that I wouldn't necessarily have to be pulling out as often. But so that having that caddy right there that I could just stick my hand into was definitely very easy versus having to dig around in a bag underneath the bottom of the stroller.
I love that. So with the caddy, you could just pull it off and like roll it up and it would be good to go if you
Yes.
were,
Yeah. It rolls up and packs into like a suitcase. Yes.
That's awesome. So thinking about your stroller parking and everything, when you parked the stroller, did you take everything with you? Did you feel comfortable leaving it? What was your experience with that?
I feel comfortable leaving everything there. I knew in case something wasn't there when we got back, I had extras of things back in the room and stuff in case something did get taken. Obviously, we didn't leave any valuables or anything in there, but just the diapers and the wipes and the extra clothes and stuff. Those were things that if something did happen and they were gone when we came back, it wouldn't be
that big of a deal. Yeah, absolutely. And because I do think that carrying as little with you as possible, like especially onto the rides and that sort of thing, makes life much easier. If you're hauling like your diaper bag and all of that onto every ride, I think that's going to wear on you just as much as carrying two little ones. So I like that idea. And you're at Disney World. Obviously anything can happen, but does somebody really want your kids' clothes? I don't but that's kind of my thought process there. So thinking about the stuff that you took into the parks, what would you say the most important item for you was? Was it the caddy? Was it something else that you were just so grateful that you had? And can we get a link for whatever that is so that we can put it in our show notes too?
Oh, yeah, sure. I would say I had a couple, probably not just one. Definitely the caddy was helpful to stay organized and things. I would also say 100% we would not have made it without a baby carrier to where my 4-month-old. She was able to sleep while we were on the rides, and she was able to stay in the carrier on the rides that had no height requirement. So it wasn't like she had to come out of the carrier. She was able to stay on my chest and stay sleeping, or if she was awake, she was awake. So that was definitely probably the biggest lifesaver of the entire trip. I was able to wear her, and then my husband was able to carry and hold and sit with our son on the rides. And then, so the other thing, honestly, I use this in everyday life, not just for the trip, but it was very helpful for the trip too. So my daughter was formula fed, and I have a container where you pre-portion the formula. So it's all ready to go versus you're scooping out of the tub or whatever kind of container you have. So the container that I have has like 5 or 6. So I already had like 5 or 6 bottles of the formula already pre-portioned. So all I had to do when I was ready to make her bottle was just dump it. I didn't have to worry about doing scoops or anything like that.
I love that. Yeah, that's great. With the baby carrier, do you like a certain type or brand, or what kind did you use?
I do. I have one of my really good friends was like, you have to try. So I tried it, and I think you pronounce it Lily.
Okay.
It is definitely a more expensive brand, but it's definitely worth it. Like, I even just put Nora in it the other day and carried her completely comfortably. Like, it doesn't hurt your back or anything. And she's almost a year old now. So
that's awesome. Yeah. So back in the dark ages when my kids were little, I had a baby Bjorn. And then I also had one that you could like tie around you. And I remember trying to cook dinner with one twin on my front and one twin on my back. And like, I don't think I could do it.
So I did buy one of the tie ones, like the Moby wraps.
Yeah.
But everybody says those are typically hotter.
Okay. And you don't want that at Disney World for sure.
Yeah. So the one that I had is like an airflow, like it's supposed to be cooler type. So
awesome. Well, let's get a link for that, and we'll put that in our show notes so that our listeners have a link to that, because I do think that is a great tip and something important to have, especially with little ones. So let's go back to your flights. So on the flight, did you like take car seats? What did you do to entertain the kids on the flight? Did Nora have her own seat? Did Jasper? Tell me a little bit about how you kept the kids entertained and how you handled things on the flight, and how long was your flight too?
So our flight was about 2 hours.
Okay.
Like I said, it was a direct flight. Neither one of the kids had their own seats. They were both considered lap children. Now we were flying Southwest, so we did get lucky, and they did have some open seats on the flight. And so we were able to ask, and they did allow Jasper to have a seat. So we had like the row of 3 seats. So we were lucky, and we did get space for that. Going through security, I think, was probably the most nerve-wracking part of the whole situation. So I did baby wear her. You can baby wear through security without having to take the baby off. So my husband, had to take everything out of the bottom of the stroller. We checked everything possibly that we could check.
Mm-hmm.
So we had less to carry through the airport, but we needed the stroller till we got to the gate, obviously, to hold our son. So we didn't check that until we got to the gate. But going through security, we obviously did get flagged because of the formula and because of the bottles. So I know one of the big TSA things is you can't carry liquid and water through. But if you have a baby and you have the baby with you, you can carry the water bottles through TSA. You will get pulled, you will get flagged. So I know that might make some people nervous, but they're just going to test the water bottles. They have a machine. They just stick them in there and just make sure that it's water in there. And then you can go. So that is something that you can take through. And the same thing with breast milk. You can also take baby food, baby snacks, like the little pouches or whatever. You can take all of that through as long as you have the children with you. When we got to the gate and checked our stroller, I think it's important to have a stroller bag because you don't want your stroller to get dirty on the bottom of the plane. Yeah. As far as on the plane, they did very well. We did have all kinds of snacks. I bought a couple of new toys that Jasper had never seen before. So they were kind of like the wow factor. And we did take advantage of when the captain turned the seatbelt sign off. I did let him get up and walk down the aisle of the plane. And he loved it. He's such a people person. He talked to everybody on the plane, I think. He just walked down the aisle going, hi, 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 talking to everybody. So we did take advantage of that. He wasn't really upset at the time that I let him do that. But I was trying to avoid that upsetness by letting him run essentially a little bit. And then we went back to the seat and had more snacks and we landed. We did not take car seats with us. We did use the Mears transportation. And then on Disney property, we did utilize the minivan, which is the Lyft service, a few times to avoid the buses. And they do have 2 car seats per minivan. So that worked out when we were actually on the property.
Yeah, I think the minivans are a great service. So a lot of times when you're you can get anywhere with Disney transportation, but a lot of times it's so much faster if you can Uber or Lyft. And with kids, especially having the car seat option with the minivans, it can sometimes be a no-brainer to do that. It is a little bit more expensive, but it's worth it for the peace of mind and for the time you save, especially when you're traveling with little ones. So I think Mears is a great option too, the shared shuttle to and from the airport. We also work with private drivers. If you want a private transfer, that includes car seats as well. So then you don't have to lug them there. So it kind of just depends on your family and what you're doing. But I think Mears is a great option to kind of avoid that whole car seat situation. As my kids got older, we had blow up car seats once they can be in a booster. And so they would carry those in our backpack. So we would have those for an Uber or a Lyft or something like that. But with real little ones, those car seats are pretty crucial. So I think that's a great tip for anyone listening to kind of think about how they want to structure their transfers and what they want that to look like. Let's go back into the parks and talk more about Walt Disney World and the parks and what you guys did. So managing the parks with little ones, making it easy, and then the different rides and attractions that you rode. Let's talk a little bit about that and what the kids were able to do and how you and Austin handled everything with them in the parks.
We did do the Lightning Lane multi-pass for every park, for every day that we were there. 100% would do that a million times over because waiting in line for the little short amount of time that we did was worth it because I knew, they're not going to stand in line for 20, 25, even 30 minutes. Obviously, being at the age that they were, we were only able to do the no height requirements rides. Jasper and Austin did get to do the Tomorrowland Speedway. So that was really cool because Jasper was right at that 32 inches. So he was able to do that. So that was cool. Me and Nora got to sit back and watch him ride around the Speedway.
Yeah.
But navigating the parks, basically I sat down with a map and before my 7-day window opened up to book my multi-pass, to book my rides, I was like, I don't want to have to walk all over this park 500 times.
I feel you. Yeah.
So I was like, we're going to go in. Our first day was Magic Kingdom. We walked in, we got our pictures with the castle. We headed straight for Fantasyland. We did Peter Pan, we did Winnie the Pooh, we did the Little Mermaid, all those rides back there. That was our first little part of the day. That's where our multi-passes were. I specifically picked that. Then we came down to Tomorrowland, did things over there. Then we went back for our midday nap. Since we were kind of towards the front of the park, Then when we re-entered, instead of going kind of towards the right side of the park, we hit the left side of the park and went over into Adventureland. And so then by the end of the day, we had hit everywhere without having to walk and double back. And we did that in every park. So I knew that it was not going to be possible for us to walk to the very left side of the park and then to the very right and then all the way to the back and then all the way to the front and then back to the back. That was not going to be possible for us. When you have older kids, that's, when you're getting your steps in, that's different. And when you can do a lot of the bigger rides, of course, that's going to be different. But for us, the mapping out kind of our guideline was the best thing.
Yeah, I love that. And I think that that's one thing that utilizing a travel agent can really help with, because all of us at Pineapple Escapes know the parks inside and out. So we can sit with you or email back and forth with you, however you want to handle it, so that we can help you kind of map that out and work on that strategy with you so that you're not walking all over the parks and all over the place. Because especially if you're a first-time visitor, like, we know the park. Like, I can probably navigate the parks better than I can navigate my hometown, if we want to be honest here. Like, I think that that's one real advantage of utilizing a travel agent for your Walt Disney World trip, is we know these things and can help you navigate it. So I think that's a great tip. So as far as like the other parks and how you handle things, so like in Magic Kingdom, obviously Fantasyland is great for littles. What did you find in the other parks that was great for your kids?
So for Epcot, so since we were at the Skyliner Resort, they only drop you off. There's no bus. So they were going to drop us off in the back of the park, which was really where the countries are, and there's not very many rides. So that was one of the times that morning that we utilized the minivan to take us to Epcot that morning. So we were kind of in the front. We got to go over and do Moana's Journey of Water. We got to do Nemo, Spaceship Earth, all of those things up front without having to walk all the way from the back to the front to do those things. Then we went to the back. We hit Remy's, which was one of my favorites and one of their favorites too. And then we were able to hop on the Skyliner and go back to our resort. So that was kind of like our Epcot day. And then Animal Kingdom, they loved the animals. I mean, Nora slept the whole time on the safari, but, Navi and the Festival of the Lion King, they were just amazed. Jasper was just amazed at that show.
I love it.
And then Hollywood is, I would say, probably the least baby friendly. It literally only has like the 2 or 3 rides that they could ride. But 100% would still go to Hollywood with the kids for Fantasmic. The show in the evening, they were both literally mesmerized. They would not move their eyes from the show. So
I love that. I love that. So thinking back to like your Epcot day, I think that's such a smart strategy to start at the front and then work your way back to the Skyliner to go back. And especially with, like, it is a hike from the back of the park to the front of the park at Epcot. It is just a very long park. So I think that was really smart to Uber over so you're in the front and then work your way backwards to not have to double back. That's a brilliant strategy that more people should utilize for sure. So let's also talk a little bit about food in the parks and how it worked for restaurants and snacks and dining. Did you have the dining plan? Did you not? How did you, like you said, you just dumped your formula. Did you need to warm it up? Tell us a little bit about how all of that worked for your family.
So we did have the dining plan. Dining was very important to me personally for this trip to get to experience different types of restaurants. So we did have the table service dining plan. And then also with that, like, I wanted the kids to also meet the characters. So we did eat primarily at the character restaurants. So that was kind of a 2-for-1 for us. We got to eat at the table service restaurants, but then we also got to meet various characters at various restaurants. So we didn't have to wait in line in the parks for those characters. So that really worked out for us. They come straight to your table. They take pictures. They sign your autograph book. They spend time with you. It's not rushed, never felt rushed anywhere. That was just a great experience. It was time to just sit down and chill and be in the cool air for a minute, even though it wasn't super hot in October for us. But I mean, it's still warm. You're outside all day, and especially for the kids. So that was really important. So that's what we did. They loved it. We would do it every time over for that. And as far as warming up the bottles, they do have the baby care centers. There's one in every park. I think they are awesome. So they have the bottle warmers. They have big changing tables. It's air conditioned in there if you just need to take a break. They do have like a quiet room for breastfeeding moms. They also have anything for purchase in there. Say you need to buy diapers or need to buy wipes or anything baby related. They have snacks, they have food, they have ointment creams. They have anything for purchase. So say if you need to buy something, that would be probably the place you need to go. They do have microwaves in there. The one in Magic Kingdom, I know, even has like a TV. So like, Jasper was able to sit and watch TV while we were tending with Nora. And so I think those are really good spaces. And I don't think those are utilized enough.
I agree completely. I think they are a hidden gem in Walt Disney World. And definitely when you're traveling with littles, I mean, that is critical. Having that space and somewhere you can go if needed. So talk to me a little bit more about your character meals. So which ones did you do with Jasper and Nora, and which would you say was your favorite of the ones that you did on this trip?
Hands down, Ohana breakfast was probably our favorite, 100%. Now, we did do Ohana dinner. I know that Ohana dinner is not character, but we did do Ohana dinner as well. So Ohana is just my favorite overall. We did do Garden Grill in Epcot. So we got to see Chip and Dale. I think it was Goofy and Farmer Mickey. So that was nice there. We did do Crystal Palace in Magic Kingdom. So we got to see Winnie the Pooh and Friends. And we did 1900 Park Fair in the Grand Floridian. So I think that night there was Cinderella, Tiana, Aladdin, and Mirabelle. Mm-hmm. And what other one did we do? I know I'm missing one. Oh, Hollywood and Vine.
Okay.
That was Hollywood. Yes, we did Hollywood and Vine. So we got to see. And that one was really cool because they were also dressed up in their little Halloween outfits.
I love that. So I think that is also a great tip for families with little ones, especially like you said, not having to wait in the line, getting to enjoy your meal, but also have some interaction, have something to keep the kids busy, something for them to be excited about as the characters come around to the different tables. I agree with you. Ohana is probably my favorite. And yes, Ohana dinner doesn't have characters, but the food is amazing. The noodles at Ohana, there's just something about them that they're my favorite. So
my husband said every time we go to Disney World, we will eat Ohana dinner every time we go.
I agree. It's one of my favorites too. That is so fun. So as we wrap up, what is your biggest piece of advice that you would give parents planning a Walt Disney World trip with their little ones?
I would say, it's going to be nerve-wracking, but try not to be nervous. It's going to work out. You're going to have a fantastic trip. If you're on the fence about booking a trip, you haven't decided, you're like, maybe I should wait till they're older. Or you have people telling you, why are you taking them now? They're not going to remember it. So many people told me that. And while they might be right, they're probably not going to remember that trip that we went on, but I will. I have the pictures, I have the memories, and it was, I've been a lot of places in my life, and having the kids, making those memories, it's been the best trip that we've been on so far. We're booked, and we're going back in December this year. We did Halloween last year, so we're going to do all the Christmas things this year, and I'm super excited. I can't wait to go. And so basically just, if you're on the fence about it, do it.
I couldn't agree more. And I think that's been one of the best things for me as my kids have grown up, Disney kids, seeing them at each stage, like when they're little and they still have the magic of the characters and that awe of just being there. And like what you described with the Fantasmic show, and then seeing that change and grow as they have grown has been amazing for me. And yes, my kids don't really remember their first trip. Like they see pictures, they know that we were there, but it was memories for me. Like I had that experience with them. I got to see the magic through their eyes. And I think that that is so, so important. So thank you, Casey, so much. This has been so helpful. And I know so many parents will appreciate your insight. That's it for today's episode of the Travel Tidbits podcast. Thanks for listening. And remember, travel makes life sweeter. Thanks for tuning in to this episode of the Travel Tidbits podcast, where we believe travel makes life sweeter. The team at Pineapple Escapes Travel would love to help you plan a trip filled with lasting memories. Visit us online at www.pineappleescapes.com to start planning your next adventure.